Hey friends, my name is Shelley Hundley and I am the Executive Director of Joy Prom Piedmont-Triad. First and foremost, before we get started and go through this video, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have volunteered for the 2025 Joy Prom on November 1st at Truist Stadium. We are so excited to have you and to have you volunteer, and we're so grateful that you've been willing to give your time and energy to come join us for this awesome night. The leadership team has worked incredibly hard and put hundreds of hours into making this event awesome, and we still couldn't do it without you. We cannot make this happen on our own. So thank you for being a part of making our dream happen and making everything just a wonderful evening for our guests and our community in general. Before I go into a little bit about this video, let me tell you a little bit about myself so you know exactly where my knowledge base comes from. And I'm not just making everything up. But again, my name is Shelley Hundley, and I'm the executive director. I took that position in 2020, and super excited. I've been involved with Joy Prom now since it started in 2015. So if you can do the math quickly, that yes, this is our 10th anniversary, and we are so excited to celebrate that this year. But prior to living here in the Winston-Salem Triad area, I worked in South Carolina as an applied behavior analysis and transition specialist for a school district. And I also, prior to that, was a special education teacher for high school special ed. My background, I've been immersed with special education and working with people with different abilities for as long as I can remember, as my mother was an elementary special education teacher, and my mom was also physically disabled from a neurological disease that settled on her spinal cord and caused her to be physically disabled. So this is something that I'm very, very comfortable with. But I want you to understand that we also get it if you're not super comfortable with it or if you feel awkward, and that's okay. Hopefully by the end of this video and by a few minutes into prom, that you will feel totally different. Um, so let me tell you first, even if you have a lot of experience, excessive experience working with people with different abilities and special needs, or you've been to a million Joy Proms, we ask that you still watch this video. I'm going to do my best to make it short and to the point, but I also have a lot of really important information that I really would like for you to pay attention to so that you know exactly what to expect and exactly how to communicate. The first part of this video will be on best practices of working with people with different abilities and special needs. And then the second little part of the video will be on the specific night itself and exactly what to expect then. So we ask for you to watch the whole thing or at least listen to it, and hopefully you'll be able to get some information out of it. That'll be helpful for you. When it comes to working with people with different abilities and special needs, one thing that is just incredibly important to always remember is to remember that they are a person. They are not their disability, that they are a person. They have needs, they have wants, they have desires, they have opinions, they have all of the feelings that we have. That they just have a different ability. Just because they have that different ability also doesn't mean they are completely disabled. They may have something that's disabling, but they are not completely disabled. When you think about disabilities, it's really important to think about it as person centered. So you might say someone has autism. You wouldn't necessarily say they are autism or they and the term autistic is not widely used anymore, but you wouldn't say that someone um has or is a learning disability, that they may have a learning disability. It does not define who they are. They may be hearing impaired. You think it doesn't define, it is just a small, small part of who they are. They have so many parts of them, just like we do as well. And so just remember that when you talk to them or interact with our guests. It's also important to remember that our level of guest functioning and that our volunteers will interact with may range from everything from guests that live completely independently. They may drive, they may have their own apartment, or maybe they live with a caregiver or something like that, to guests that also may need medical assistance and such while that they are at prom in order to function. Some may be completely verbal and talk your ears off, and some may be completely nonverbal and maybe communicates a different way through a different communication device, maybe even through sign language or through eye gaze. But our guests all have some ability to communicate regardless of whatever level of ability that they do have. And again, just a reminder, when I say that, remember, it's not about the things that they can't do. We try to really focus on things that they can do. And every single one of our guests, no matter what their ability level is, can do something or many things. But so just as a reminder, just try to remind yourself of that. Um, Another thing that's really important is to always assume competence. Always assume that our guests can do something prior to making the choice then or making the assumption that they can't. You assume that they are competent and they are able to do something. And then if they can't, then we offer in support. And that is very important for us to remember is don't ever guess that someone can't do something. I know that for me personally, if someone assumes that I can't do something, it is very offensive to me. And I'm like, well, I can do that on my own. Our guests get that all the time. And so that's really important for you to remember to assume that they can do it until you find out that they can't. So always make that positive assumption. Um, Other than that, so use really clear and concise communication. Be sure that you speak clearly and don't mumble your words. Blah, 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 blah. Make really good eye contact with our guests and speak very clearly so that they can understand. You may need to speak a little slower, but you don't necessarily need to talk to them really slow or use any baby voices. You don't need to just assume that they don't understand anything, but you may need to slow down so that their brains have a little bit of processing time and that they can understand what you're saying. And when I say eye contact is incredibly important. Like I said, our guests may have a learning disability or they may be super um, lower functioning that they can't speak or they can't do some of these things. And that they most likely or they will have a caregiver that stays with them as well. But even if they have a caregiver, that doesn't mean that they don't need to have a host hostess with them or can't have a host hostess with them to enjoy the night with the guest. But maybe they need to be there to help for their medical needs or to help with their feeding needs or their toileting needs, those type of things. But if there is a caregiver around, it's very important to always remember that you can interact with the caregiver, but you are not there for the caregiver. You are there for the guest. You are there to interact with that guest and to speak to that guest. They are why you are there. So, making small talk and conversation with the guest and the caregiver is awesome, but you need to be speaking to the guest, making that eye contact with the guest, not necessarily just with the caregiver. So, you will want to look at them and maybe speak to them some, but when you're talking to the guest, you want to talk directly to the guest. Even if that caregiver may be the one answering for them, then you still need to look at the guest. Consider this that maybe you're making small talk with a guest that's nonverbal and maybe even wheelchair bound. And so let's say that you're looking at them and you say, so what's your favorite color? Or do you like to go to the beach or something? Something to that sort. And because they verbally can't answer those words, maybe their caregiver is going to say, oh, his favorite color is blue. She loves to go to the beach. A great way to pull the guest back in would be to then go, to look at the guest as you talk and go, "Oh, you like the color blue? I love blue. That's one of my favorite colors." Or, "Oh, you like the beach? I just went to the beach. I love the beach." Or, "I'm not a big fan of the beach, but I know a lot of friends of mine do." Maybe you say, "Hey, you like what kind of music do you like? Oh, you like country music? Maybe you love country." And you can answer, "Oh, I love country music too," which is a great way to connect. Or you could say, "You know what? I'm not a big country music fan, but there are a few songs that I like." Or maybe you'll say something like, "I'm not a big country music fan, but my best friend is." It's maybe that you tie some of those things in to connect with them, but you're going to redirect that conversation just with the guest. Just remember, you are with the guest and not that caregiver. While the caregiver may be with you, that's not your purpose while you're there. Be patient, wait. When your guest is trying to communicate with you, if they are verbal or nonverbal, just wait. They may need a minute to process what you're saying. Allow them to speak and give you what they want. This is their night. So they may want to go ride the limo, or they may want to go to the games, or they may want to go to bingo, or they may be hungry, they may be thirsty, but just if you ask them those questions, just wait a few minutes. If you see that maybe your guest doesn't really know how to answer that question that you ask them, "Hey, what do you want to do next?" This a very open-ended question. Then you may want to stop and rephrase that question a little bit and say, "Hey, what do you want to do? I mean, we could go to bingo or we can go ride the limos," and maybe give them two options. Maybe if you're at the food and you're trying to help them get their plate, that you maybe give them some options and say, "Would you rather have, apples, this piece of apple, or would you rather have a strawberry?" And let them kind of look or point to them and let them see so that they can process some of that. Like I said, this isn't all of our guests. They don't all need this, but some of them will. And again, when we're talking about things, just know that this is a very general training. But you may have a guest that have some of these issues and may not. If you're working in food service, don't assume that because they are walking by you with their plate, they want that food on it. Um, they're holding their plate, and if maybe you're serving chicken fingers, you wanna have a one on in your little, grip thing on your little tongs, and you can kinda offer it up and wait until they say yes or no. A lot of them are verbalizing, some of them may nod their head. If they don't make any distinction at all, you may be, "Oh, okay," and then pull it back, and that's okay. They may not want everything, and that's fine 'cause, well, I'm sure that we will have plenty of guests that will want that food. So, offer them up those choices on if they want it. Let them tell you if they want it, because they do know, and they do know the things that they need and they want. Be respectful. They are adults. Talk to them in a very respectful, adult. Don't use baby words. Don't use baby tones. Things like that. And if you make a mistake or say something wrong or do something wrong or you do flip over some word that you don't understand, or that's okay. Just stop and just say, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Let me redo that." Or just kind of reboot that conversation. Our guests, and honestly, they most people, but our guests definitely are used to being told that they're not doing something right, probably fairly often in life, or being redirected because they haven't done something right pretty often. So for them to know that we can say, "Hey, oh, we messed up with something too," that's comforting to them, and so that's a really positive thing for you to do. Remember that we never touch our guests without permission. Do not lay your hands on, even put your arm around, hug, anything like that, unless you ask first. And an easy way to ask, when we do prom dresses and I'm helping the girls dress, I always speak directly to them and I say, "May I touch your body?" And they have the ability to say yes or no, and if they say no, I won't. If they do, then I can touch and help them get their clothes on, and change their attire. But I ask them before I ever touch them, "Can I give you a hug?" Yes, absolutely. Or they may say no, or they may just kind of lean back a little bit and not want to. And again, they have the ability to make that choice. You also have that ability to make that choice. It is your body as well. And if you have a guest that's wanting to hug a lot and you're really uncomfortable with that, maybe you're just not a touchy person. That's really okay. All you need to do is you need to just lay your boundaries out and say, no, thank you. I don't want a hug. I'm not a big hugger. And if by chance they don't stop and you continue to feel uncomfortable, then reach out to one of our leadership team members and let us know, and we can either reassign you, or we can work with it, or we can even address the guest or something like that, but we can work with you. If anything ever seems off with one of our guests, please seek help. And by that, I mean if they start acting lethargic, or maybe they start turning really red, or really maybe they've not been dancing and they're starting to sweat, or if anything that they say they don't feel good, have them sit down and find one of our leadership teams. And I'll tell team members, I'll tell you in a minute kind of how you can do that easily. But get them help just in case. We do have some guests that have seizure disorders, and if they have seizure disorder, it's going to say that on their name tag. And on their name tag, it will say, so all you need to do is if they start acting a little strange, get them to sit and then get assistance immediately. But don't leave that guest alone. Get somebody else to get that assistance, and somebody will come help you. If by chance a guest does have a seizure, and they end up either maybe they fall onto the ground and they have a seizure, or they may be sitting and have a seizure, um, and that is what you'd call a grand mal seizure would be where their body is moving. Sometimes people also have absence seizures where they kind of daze off and for a little bit, and so you might see some of that as well. That's not as easily understood that by a lot of people, and or recognized, I guess, by a lot of people. But if someone does have a seizure, the most important thing is their safety. So if someone does have a seizure and they fall down or and end up on the ground, it's incredibly important to make sure that let somebody get down there and make sure that they are not banging their head on the ground or hitting the wall. Make sure that they are safe, and you tend to get their hands under, keep them from hitting their head, and you typically roll them to the side in case that they end up getting sick. There will be emergency people on there. We will have EMS there. We have nurses that are also going to be there. And a lot of our leadership team is prepared and understands what to do in these situations. So immediately we would get there as quick as we can. But in those few minutes or few seconds that it may take us to get there, you just want to help make sure somebody's comfortable. We don't want anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with, and we would never ask you to provide any type of medical assistance unless that it is something that nobody could get to them. But if you just make sure that they're safe and they're not banging their head on the ground or something like that, that's the best thing to do if someone does have a seizure. If a guest ends up getting overwhelmed or overstimulated because it is loud and there's a lot of people and there's a lot going on, if you're working with a guest and you can tell they're overstimulated, maybe they might have some repetitious behaviors. They may clench up, or they may start acting very stressed. You can often read that in their body language, even if they can't tell you that. We do have a sensory quiet area. And I'll tell you where that is. That'll be, and there'll be signs to that. We do have a sensory quiet area that the guests can go to, and that you can have a few minutes to sit down and maybe just kind of calm down and recenter and just kind of get their sensory system just to relax a little bit. And then hopefully you can integrate back into the prom. If you have left the area and gone to the sensory room and they do want to try to go back, I would suggest going to somewhere that is not as busy and crazy as the dance floor. Maybe be like, oh, let's go take a limo ride, or let's go play bingo. One of those things, or let's go sit and eat, because that is not as crazy and as loud as the dance floor. So just really important to pay attention to their body language and to listen to them if they tell you that they need something like that. Hmm. Um, Really important, just have fun. Enjoy yourself, and your guests will enjoy yourself too. I tell people all the time when I'm asking them to volunteer, I tell them, I'm like, if you come one time, you will want to come every time. And it's one of those events that if you've come to and you love it, then you love it and you want to be there every year. So I want you to have fun as well. This night is about honoring our guests with special needs and different abilities, but it's really also about honoring our community and about the sense of unity that we all feel. I know that when I'm there at prom, it is amazing for me to like look around and see how united of a community that we are. And it is such a heartwarming, awesome event to be able to see those interactions and to really realize how united our community really can be. Um, you also reminder that your guest, you need to be with your guest at all times. Do not leave your guest at all, period, alone, ever. You're not to take them and let them just walk off on their own. You need to stay with them. Um, if that you have to leave or something happens, then you need to make sure you hand them off to a caregiver or another volunteer. So make sure that you are with them for the entire time. Okay. Now, as for a little information about the night, if you've been to Joy Prom a few times before, you may know some of this, but a lot of you are new. So just pay really good attention to this part, and hopefully that this will help your night go a little smoother. First, when you arrive, you will park in the upper parking lot, just where everybody else parks at the stadium. There will be signs that will direct you to a certain side of the parking lot. Our guests will get primary parking up towards the front and on that side, but that because they will enter through the main gates, but you will not enter through the main gates. Volunteers enter through the third base gate. So when you're in the parking lot, the furthest one out is where volunteers will enter. There will be plenty of signs and people directing you, so hopefully that's not going to be an issue. But just pay attention, that is where that volunteers will enter. Volunteer times and when you are supposed to arrive will be on the email that you will get with this video. It will be listed on there as to what area that and what time that each of those areas need to arrive. We ask that you arrive about 15 minutes prior, or plan to get to the stadium about 15 minutes prior to that time that is listed on there, so that you have time to park and have time to walk in and get your registration and get your tag and then get to the area that you're supposed to be in, because that is our time of working and getting to tell you what to do and everything before we have to really hit the ground running. um when you arrive and you get your name tag, you will be told what area to go to and to kind of meet and check in with the person that's in charge of that area. So you will head there, they will give you the instructions, and then you're just going to kind of wait for us to get moving on everything. If you are a red carpet volunteer, you will be there just to cheer and then you will be asked to leave. There are certain volunteer positions. If you have a red tag and your name tag is red, you are only going to be staying through the red carpet entrance or through your task, and then you're asked to leave. And please know that that is not because that we don't want you there. That is not because that we are wanting people to leave. It is because we only can allow for so many people to be there at one time. And unless that someone is volunteering actively in a specific role, then they don't need to be on site. Part of that also is that our red carpet cheering crowd, we allow guests from 5 to 13 to volunteer there. But in order to be a hostess, you have to be 14 or to do the other positions. And the reason that we do that is because we want to make sure that we keep the night elevated as to what's appropriate to be with our guests, and what our guests should be doing as adults. The well, the one thing that we want to also make sure that we stay focused is that it's on the guest. If you even speak to, I have an 8-year-old daughter, and if you talk to my daughter, she will look at you and very bluntly tell you that tonight's not about you. And I always get tickled when she says that to people, but she'll say, "This is not about you. Tonight's not about you. This is about our guests." And so she even has just like taken that on, that it's about them. And so that's part of why that we really want to make sure that we don't have extra like children or other people just running around, that we really want to keep this guest centered. If by chance you are doing one of those jobs that ends early and you have that and you want to stay through the night, you can reach out to us and we can seek out other volunteer options for you to actively volunteer during that time period. But again, we don't just allow people just to wander around if they're not actively volunteering or not actively a guest or a caregiver or someone that has a purpose for being there. We do pay per head, per every single person that comes there and that is involved and that stays through the prom. That we do pay for every single one of those people, and it's a lot. And we work on uh, a very large budget, but with a lot of small donations that come in to cover that. And so we try to be very conscientious about how our money is spent and everything. So just know that it is not about trying to offend or hurt somebody's feelings. This is not about that. It's just about keeping the integrity of our event, to knowing what everybody is there and what they are supposed to be doing, and making sure that we stay focused on what our goal for the evening is. You are required to stay till the end. Host, hostess, most positions, host, hostess, I think dining is all, they end at 10 p.m. Prom ends at 9:30. But we have that extra time built in order for you to help or make sure our guests get to their caregiver and that they get out of the stadium. That you have that information that you need to stay and make sure that happens. We also ask that if you happen to have walked and your guest is already gone, we have spent, by the time that has hit, we've probably been at the stadium, we being the leadership team, at that point already 12 hours. So we desperately need help. If there are things that need to be moved or packed up, we ask for you to please help that if you possibly can, because it's a lot of work for us, and we try to do that, but we will be pretty exhausted by that point too. So we ask you just to kind of help with that. Excuse me. Um, as for the end of the night, we will be closing things like the games and bingo, food and caregiver suite. A lot of those events kind of that we trickle close. And so they will start closing. And I believe the last one of those closes between 8:45 and 9 o'clock. The reason that we do that is because at 9 o'clock or when that area gets closed, we want all of those people that have volunteered and have worked in those areas to join us on the dance floor. We like for at least to have a couple dances with everyone. So if you have been in the caregiver suite, or maybe that you have been serving food, or you've been doing something else, playing games, we want you to come to the dance floor and join us for that amount of time. Even if you're not a dancer, we want you to come to that area, join our circle of love and of unity over in that area, and just stay there for a little bit and enjoy that part of it. You also can get photographs. We have a professional photographer, a photo booth, a candid photographer, and even a donor-centered photographer this year. So we want you to get your picture made and do all of those things. So we would like for you to be sure that you come over to that area, but we will trickle close a lot of those over about 30 to 45 minutes before prom ends. Um, I will remind you that when you are dancing, please remember to keep it classy. We do not allow just excessive grinding on each other or inappropriate dancing or inappropriate touching. If our guests are doing that, we will stop them as well. Volunteers doing it, we will stop you. This is not what this event is. We want you to dance to your heart's content and enjoy every bit of that, but we also want to make sure that we are not being inappropriate. There is no smoking at Truist Stadium, so you will not be allowed to step out into any area to go smoke. That is not allowed. So be sure that if that's something that you do and you need to do, that maybe you bring some gum with you or something to pass that, because you will not be able to leave to go smoke. When you leave this year, so we have some T-shirts that we will be selling, and we have some Joy Prom Piedmont-Triad shirts. They are gray and they have our logo in the dark blue and the purple and dark pink, and they are $15 a piece. And we would love for you to purchase them. We will have them set up by the gate when you leave, so that you can purchase them as you leave. You need to bring either cash. There's no tax, just $15, or you can Venmo. We will be posting later this week when guest name tag pickup is. We will have those shirts for sale on that date as well at those places. We only have a limited number of them. We only ordered a certain amount of them. So if by chance that you need a certain one, or want one, you definitely need to grab it first. And we have size youth extra large up to size 6X. Um, but again, that we only have a limited supply. And I did not go, and I just realized I forgot to go through really quickly. If you need help during prom, if you have questions, if you feel uncomfortable, if there's anything that you are not quite sure of, all you need to do is reach out to one of our leadership team or one of our assistants. One thing we're adding in this year is an ask me or I can help person that will be stationed, or people that will be stationed throughout the venue. They will have a sign that says I can help, or anything like that. So they will also have a light up yellow lanyard on. They're light up yellow lanterns, so you'll know that that is someone that can provide you assistance. Our leadership team, the people that have done hundreds of hours of planning for this event, our leadership team will be wearing blue. They will have the blue name tags and or the blue light up lanyards. I hope that you will find these people that have these blue light up lanyards and just walk up to them. They won't think it's weird. Walk up to them and say, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Not only do we put hundreds of hours and all of our time, we also all end up putting our own money into this. And, we may even take off work and do those things. But we do it because we love it. And we do it because we think it's important and we think you are important and our guests are important. And the last color lanyard that you might see would be this. And this would be the light up pink lanyard. I think my batteries are getting low, but and this is me. And if you see this, the pink lanyard, I'm the only one that wears this. If you see it in the light up pink lanyard, I want you to come speak to me. Come talk to me. I take a lot of joy in knowing our guests and knowing our volunteers. Maybe you've met me before. I'm going to be honest, I might not remember because I do meet a lot of people, but just tell me, hey, like I met you at this, or hey, you told me about volunteering at this, or something about that. But please come up and talk to me, because this is why we do this. Meeting you and meeting our guests and our parents, that's what feeds our soul, and that's what keeps us doing this every year. That's what gives us the energy when we've been there 10, 12 hours, is to know that we've made a difference and that you have had a great time and that you have felt the love. So, if you have questions or anything, just ask any of those people. Reach out. If you have questions, feel free to call. My number is in this email. Call. You can call or text me. If I don't respond, it might be because I have a million other texts coming through. Text or call again. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask any questions. We are so excited about this year's prom, and we really, really hope that you are going to enjoy celebrating our 10th year of joy in Winston-Salem Triad area, and we are looking forward to being with you on November 1st. I hope y'all have a great rest of your few days that are left before prom, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everyone.